Our county board proceedings will now come to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Susan Locke with the invocation.
We are meeting tonight to conduct matters of importance, guide our hearts and our minds in right thought and speech so that we may reach a successful conclusion. Amen.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move for the adoption of this evening's agenda.
It's been moved and seconded to accept this evening's agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on anything on the agenda this evening? Now's your time to talk.
Did you hear that?
Well, we'll try again.
Just started working.
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
I don't know where the squelch is coming from. Now I'm all confused. I had an opportunity to do my civic duty, and I had to go and explain county government to a fourth grade. And I took all the paperwork and all the stuff and what we did, and it went very well. And there was at Reed School in Oshkosh here. It was a fourth grade. And the kids asked more questions than a lot of our board people ask on important issues. So it was quite an experience. But then I also had, as your chairman, I was asked different times throughout my tenure as chairman to attend the Wisconsin Association of County Homes. And it was in DeForest, Wisconsin. And it had just stormed, but I finally got there, and it was quite interesting. They talked constantly about how nitpicky the federal government is and how the state government is on all the nursing home things, like a cup of water is left on a table too long and this isn't right, and they're very nitpicky. Anyway, so when I get back home, I checked some of the information that they got, and I looked it up on the government survey, and overall it says Parkview Health Center, overall rating 5-star. It says staffing 5-star. Quality measures 5-star. They had one little thing on a health inspection, something about medication, and that was 4-star, which is above average. So I think that our nursing home deserves a lot of credit for having I don't know, 100 and I don't know the exact amount of employees, but all those employees and everything, and to have that high a rating for a nursing home, is quite good. After listening to all these other nursing homes complain how nitpicky they are, and I'm sure if if Morgan was able to be there, or the Parks director or Parkview director, she would have been complaining too. But the report comes out that we were just fine. So I just thought that was really good news. Okay, at this time, I would like to ask.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I had tried to ring in earlier, but I didn't hear you. I'd like to do something on the commissions, and if I
Okay.
excuse me, folks. Christy Cutts, with the University Extension financial director or financial analyst, is just rewarded the Wisconsin Financial Literacy Award. And with your permission, I'll just read it. The recipients were selected based on whether they had documented measurable results, collaborated with partners, used innovative implementation strategies, and focused their efforts on need-based groups. Cutts has provided leadership to a comprehensive financial literacy program in Winnebago County for a number of years. She teamed up with a local library, United Way, and many other organizations to introduce Money Smart Week in August in Oshkosh, and was also key in getting a volunteer income tax assistance site established in the area. In addition, she provided educational workshops for Head Start parents and participates in the Rent Start program. Cutts' efforts also included working with jail and prison populations, transitional housing groups, and offering education related to workforce development. And I can say myself that Christy has been a self-starter, has done a very good job getting out and working with people that really need some help in the financial area. I think at times sitting here that we all pretty much can balance a checkbook, we can do financial stuff like that, and we forget that there are people out there that really don't know how to do that, how to plan their finance area. So Christy has done a real good job there. So I would like to congratulate her on that particular award. The only other question I have, Mr. Chairman, is did you discover the fourth graders were above, below, or about the same as the county board?
They were below.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I would like to ask Kimberly Miller to come up. She's the horticulture educator at UW Extension. She'll be giving us a presentation on emerald ash borer.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. I was told I had about 15 minutes tonight, so I'm going to try to keep this short, but I apologize if I go a little bit over. And I'm going to turn this so I can see what I'm presenting here. I'm here tonight to talk to you about emerald ash borer and why is it such a big deal for this county. How many of you remember Dutch elm disease? Okay. Dutch elm disease is pretty simple or small compared to emerald ash borer. Emerald ash borer has surpassed Dutch elm disease and is the most costly invasive pest in the nation at this time. These are just... So why is it important? Well, it's important because it attacks all true ash trees. So all native, all cultivars, all varieties of ash tree. It does not attack mountain ash because it's not a true ash tree, but other than that, it attacks all ash trees. Oh, where am I? I'm sorry. It is also 97% fatal to ash trees. So according to Michigan, where this was found, that is what they've determined. Wisconsin has over 700 million ash trees in this state. That is why it is so important here. It is also up to 20% of our street trees and 12% of our urban trees throughout the state. So it takes up a huge percentage of our urban trees within our communities. Some communities in the state have upwards of 40% ash. When Dutch elm disease moved through and killed all the elm trees, what did they replant them with? They replanted them with ash trees or maple trees. So those are our two most populous trees. And emerald ash borer is killing all the ash. It is also spread through firewood and nursery stock. The nursery stock has pretty much been stopped. That's fairly regulated and it doesn't spread that way. but firewood is the most common way it is spread, and we are the culprits for that. And it is also very hard to detect. That's why this is so important to cover. It takes 2 to 3 years for a tree to be infested before you even know you have it. So what is at stake? I have an example here of if you have approximately 2,500 ash trees, which is kind of a drop in the bucket for most communities when you consider your private and your public trees. If you have 2,500 ash trees, you got to think about not only the cost of removal of those trees, but also the benefits those trees provide to you and your community. So with the loss of these trees, you're losing $46,000 in heating and cooling costs. You're losing $50,000 in stormwater management, almost $8,000 in air pollution mitigation, almost $60,000 in residential property values, $6,000 in carbon dioxide, for a total of about $168,000. What they have found in many communities is where they have had EAB come through, wipe out all the ash trees, the deaths due to cardiovascular diseases and respiratory diseases have gone up in those communities because you don't have the trees there to filter the air anymore. They found they have more costs for stormwater control, especially in places that have combined sewer and sanitary sewer systems. And also property values have declined in these areas. There's actually places in Indiana where it's moved through that residents are moving from their long-term neighborhoods because they don't have the trees that they used to anymore, and their property values are declining. So it's not just about the removals, but also the values those trees provide us. And then you also have to think about the tort claims. As municipalities, you will have tort claims. These trees become hazardous, and they become hazardous to your community and to your residents, and so there is that possibility there. So why be concerned now? It's because EAB can appear anywhere at any time. It has been found in the county, which I'll cover in a minute, so you pretty much have to plan like you have it. Also, they start dying in 3 to 4 years, and then they just keep going up from there, the number of deaths. And then the municipalities who don't manage will bear the brunt of this. You will see a strain on your budgets and your personnel and your staff. And the failure to prepare will cost more in the long run. So as a director of public works said in Michigan, it will hit you like a freight train if you do not plan for this pest. And the reason for this is because what they found is that EAB, when it moves into a community that first year, you have no idea you have it. You have no clue. It's not until the year 3 to 5 that the symptoms start appearing on the trees. And so it's already been there for quite a while before you know it. At the 8-year mark is when you start reaching that tipping point. That's when the population starts exploding and starts ramping up. And then the 8+ years is where all your trees start dying. So usually within 10 years of EAB being found in a community, all your ash trees are dead. The thing you got to think about with where it's been found here, since the symptoms were appearing, those trees are already in the 45-year mark. And so we only got about another 5 years of planning before all the trees in those areas start dying or are dead. So this is where EAB has been found within the nation. It was found in Michigan, in the Detroit area in 2002. By the time they knew what they were dealing with, it had already spread out of the state and into Canada. And as you can see, it's already been spread over to Colorado. It was found there this summer, and it's clear down in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
What is the yellow? I'm sorry, what is the yellow?
This yellow here, that is just a quarantine area for Iowa itself. Some of the states have different quarantines than others. So what trees are at risk? Like I said, it attacks all ash trees. So it'll attack your purple ash, your green ash, your Marshall ash, you name it, it will attack it. This is a street in Ohio in 2006. Here's the street 3 years later. Here's the initial find in Newburgh. Newburgh is where it was found in Wisconsin. This picture was taken in 2012, so this is 4 years after the initial find. And you can see the dead trees. This was taken 1 year later, and you can see how it's really spread across this wooded lot. So if you go back, you can see kind of goes to about here, and now it goes all the way over. And this is important because within Winnebago County, we have a lot of native ash stands within the county. So you're going to start seeing die-off like this. So how does EAB spread? It doesn't move very far on its own. It only moves a half mile to 2 miles on its own. Every once in a while, you'll get that satellite female that will fly 5-10 miles off, but it's not very often. Firewood. Firewood is the way it moves. So that's what we have to be concerned about. Within Winnebago County, it was found last August in the town of Black Wolf. Within the town of Black Wolf, we found it within 2 locations. And since one of the locations was on the town line, we were able just to go across the street and also confirm it in the town of Nakaimai. So basically that area down there, you can pretty much, you can figure the entire area is infested. EAB is extremely hard to detect, and so a lot of trees, you don't know it has it. They attack the top of the trees first and move down into the tree, so by the time you see the symptoms in the trunk of the tree where the average person can see, your tree is already dead. So as it says there, it is probably within the city of Oshkosh, but we can't confirm that because it is so hard to detect. The quarantine areas, the red areas, are considered quarantine. What that means is that no one can move firewood outside of this area. So that is all hardwood firewood. That is ash, that is maple, that is oak. So any firewood cannot be moved outside of the quarantine area. If it's moved outside of the quarantine area, you can be fined by a warden up to $1,000 for moving it. And you'll see that Douglas County is quarantined. That happened just this summer. They found a find up there, and they speculated it was moved up there by firewood. So for EAB, they recommend treatments if it has been found within 15 miles. So what these next maps are showing is that 15 miles. And this just kind of shows how it is spread across the state since it was found. This was 2008, and it shows the initial find down in Ozaukee County. 2009, it popped up on the other side of the state and up in Green Bay. And you can see it popped up in Milwaukee also. This one, it didn't move a whole lot. It moved some. Starts expanding a little bit more in 2011. 12, it starts jumping. And then in 13, it really jumps. And so right now we're looking at 18% or more of the land area in the state is within that 15-mile area right now. And here's another graph that just shows that exponential growth of EAB and what it does over time. This is the high-risk map for Winnebago County. It shows the 15-mile radius within or from that initial find. Since we also found it 2 miles north of the initial find, you can expand that out about 2 miles. So preparing for EAB. What has been learned from all the communities that have had to deal with this so far is that the population builds quickly. Once you reach that 4 to 6 year mark and hit 8, definitely, it just takes off. They've learned that their staff must be pulled from other duties. They don't have time to deal with other things that are on their agenda. Also, major capital expenses usually get deferred because of the cost of removals or treatments. A lot of municipalities haven't been able to afford fire trucks, police cars, and so forth. Also, because of the number of dead trees, the demand for contract services goes up. So therefore, your contract costs for these removals also go up The forester in Fort Wayne, Indiana, found that within 2 years, his contract prices doubled because of the number of trees going up and then the demand for services. Also, removing dead trees is more expensive. Ash trees become very brittle once they die, so therefore they become more hazardous and therefore cost more to remove. They're more hazardous to the person removing them. Also, when they hit the ground, they tend to shatter, so there's more cleanup involved with it. So that also increases the cost. And a lot of communities have found that once they remove all the trees, they don't have the money to replace them. So now you have these urban desert areas with no trees. So these are all the different costs associated with EAB. So your options, you can try to eradicate it, but it doesn't, they've proved that you cannot eradicate this pest. By the time you've removed all the trees within the area, it's already moved beyond that area. So you can do removals, and a lot of times they say do preemptive removals. Those preemptive removals allow you to space the removals over several years ahead of EAB. So that's one option. You can do nothing and just wait for all the trees to die on their own, and then you're left with all these trees just standing there, which now become a liability to your municipalities. Or you can do something which is preemptive removals, or you can do chemical treatments. Those are kind of your two options. So to prepare for emerald ash borer, you can invest in treatment and removals. Most municipalities kind of do a combination of both. The first place you have to start is you have to know what you have. Without an inventory, it's hard to determine what needs to remove and what needs to be treated. From there, you also need to look at your ordinances. You need to look at if you have any authority to tell homeowners to remove their trees, because there are trees on private property that are going to overhang your public property, your streets, your sidewalks, their neighbors' properties. Are those trees going to become a hazard, and do you have authority to tell them to remove them? You need to look at wood handling. This is a huge problem that honestly there is no good solution. But you're not only going to have the wood waste from your municipalities, but you're going to have the wood waste from your homeowners. And they're going to be looking to you to know where can they take their wood waste and where can they dispose of it. So you got to look at the contract management, the staffing and scheduling of these things, the equipment. There's a lot of equipment that you have to consider both in removals and in wood handling. If the ash trees are dead, they're harder on the equipment. They require more sharpening of the blades, and so therefore more money is invested. And then just the sites, just coming up with a site where you can store this material. The next step is planting. You need to consider replacing the trees that get removed. You need to potentially fill in existing vacant spots now to help compensate for the trees that will be removed. You need to replace trees that are coming out, and also just plant a diverse mixture. If we do not diversify our urban forest, then we'll be right back in this situation when the next invasive species hits. And then public reaction. As trees come out, they will be upset. People are emotionally tied to their trees, and so they will get upset, and that's just something that you have to have a strategy for. You can encourage ash treatments for people so that they can save their trees. And then also you can look at using tax dollars in different ways to help protect trees and to save them. So with budgeting, there is a lot of different sources that you can look at for trying to save money, but honestly, it's going to hit the budgets fairly hard. You can tax, you can do different things, but there's no good answer, and every community is going to have a different strategy to look at. So that is all I had. I was trying to keep it short tonight. These are different websites for reporting and for different resources. If you, yeah.
Yes, I'm wondering, when you're talking about the 2-mile range of these things, once you discover an area that's been infected, can you pre-treat trees just outside that perimeter? In other words, contain it by forming a perimeter?
Minneapolis has been looking at that, the Minneapolis-St. Paul. Me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Some people, I think it's actually St. Paul, not Minneapolis, that is looking at that. They've looked at treating the area around it and then removing certain trees. Supposedly it is helping to slow the spread of it, but it's not going to stop it. So.
That can be used for treatment like that, where treating the trees would last 2 or 3 years before they'd have to be retreated.
Correct.
And if it's done from the outside in, it should reduce considerable the amount of spread of the ash borer itself.
It can help reduce. The other thing, though, that St. Paul's doing is they're treating their street trees is what they're doing. And they also have an ordinance that allows them to force removal of private trees. So that's another reason it's working, is that they find a tree that's infested, the removal of that tree is forced. One of the issues with the find where it is now, it's in a rural area. So doing the same procedures that St. Paul's doing would be a little bit more difficult.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Miller, is there any of the statistics that tell us if you do the treatment, the inoculation ahead of time, you'll save more money than dealing with it at the end with cutting down all the trees?
Yes. What they found, most municipalities, if they try to do all the removals at once the trees become infested, it's usually more than their budgets can handle. So a lot of municipalities, what they're doing is they're either doing the preemptive removals far enough ahead of time of EAB that they can stagger the removals so that it fits their budget, or they are treating trees so that they can make the removals on their own time. And so that allows you to spread those removals over many years, and it fits the budget that you have.
Okay, forgetting the fact that we do have budgets, but assuming we could spend the money where we want to spend the money, would you recommend that we try to get started with inoculation, moving ahead so we kind of get ahead of the game?
Well, it's usually, we tell each municipality and each entity they have to determine what's best for them, but most people, what they determine is that they remove the young trees because those trees have not reached an age where they're providing you with many benefits yet. So you remove those, you replace them, and then you find those more heritage trees, the larger trees, the trees that are providing you with a lot of benefits. You treat them. Sometimes you may have to treat them for life if they're that important to you. Otherwise, you treat those to preserve the benefits while you get other trees started and get those growing so that they can kind of replace those in the long run.
One more question, if I may. If we were to start inoculating, when do we need to do that now that we've found things in black wolf and so forth?
They recommend treatment start once it's been found within 15 miles or within the county. And so technically anyone within this county should start treating now. The best time to start treatments is in the spring. You can treat in fall, but spring is the best time, and treating in the summer will not do you much good.
So we basically should find somebody someplace to get at least some trees inoculated right now, would you say?
You could start treatment this spring if you knew which trees needed to be treated.
How about my street?
Certainly excellent. The quarantine that you mentioned, what is being done to publicize that and make the public more aware of it? Because I'm not hearing much on TV, I'm not hearing much on radio.
To be honest, I don't believe the state does a lot of publicizing of the quarantine itself. They have done a lot of PR work dealing with don't move firewood, and so that's been the main focus. We have done a couple of press releases just stating that EAB has been found in the county and that you cannot move outside of it, but that's
In your opinion, what could the county do to enhance that awareness?
to enhance the ordinance.
No, the awareness
Oh,
of
the
the
awareness.
quarantine.
Just trying to make your citizens aware. You could put it on the website. You could put it in mailings. A lot of municipalities put it in utility mailings. And then just awareness. Anywhere they visit.
And also one more question. You can't move the ash trees out of the county?
No.
Can you bring hardwood into the county?
Yes,
But you can't take anything out?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Roble.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This seems to me that's similar to our elm trees. And I know I was involved in hauling a lot of them because I was employed as a city employee, and we worked with the Parks Department, and they couldn't keep up because there were so many trees, and it just was too late, and they just kept on spreading and spreading, and a handful survived.
Correct.
And eventually they die.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're facing with the EAB.
Yeah, so if we're going to do something, it's got to be done like right now.
Correct. And what a lot of municipalities have found with dealing with wood waste, it's not a matter of making money off of the wood waste. It's trying to figure out how to reduce the cost.
Sure.
So,
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Miller, what kinds of partnerships have developed in Winnebago County to address this issue with the municipalities? Is there some overall concerted effort, or is this just left to chance?
we did hold a networking meeting of all the municipalities last spring or last fall after it was found for people to discuss and just try to get more informed. The cities and villages, they kind of have their own plans. Neenah, Menasha, Town of Menasha, a lot of them already have EEB plans in place, and they are already working towards something. For everyone else, there is no concerted effort right now.
So your position is as an educator. Each municipality is responsible for its own territory. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that in respect to the corporate limits, it's the cities and villages. In respect to the towns, it's the town government whose responsibility is to monitor and communicate for their individual municipalities.
That is how it's been. If people want to join efforts, we welcome that and can help facilitate it. But at this time, no one's really showed much effort in wanting to come together. Where some of the interest has been is how can we cooperate on wood handling sites for the different municipalities.
So would you see your position kind of as a facilitator and educator to communicate the status and the changes that you learn of the condition of this situation, so that the municipalities can be in sync and
Yes,
act appropriately?
we have an email list of all the different municipalities in the county, and as different findings come out, we do update them. Right now, there's been no new findings within the county itself.
So I hear you saying that we have done everything that we could.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you've done everything you can. I'm just saying, I'm just presenting what has been done.
I can recall this issue being discussed for several years now, and it appears that it's intensifying over time, but
Unfortunately, what we have found is that usually until EEB is found in your backyard, people do not jump to action. And so now that it has been found in the county, now's the time. Now's the time when people need to do something. And the cities and villages are putting a plan in place. But a lot of times, because townships don't have forestry programs or street tree programs, there are no plans in place in those areas.
Supervisor Keel.
I was just gonna, I think some of my questions have been answered, but I'm over here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Nina's working on something in the city and moving forward with some combination of what you mentioned. Is that safe to say that you, having known those people, that's like those municipalities are doing their efforts? Is that something that we can maybe come to you? You're familiar, like maybe just collecting the knowledge base, because it seems like it's a pretty disparate, dispersed bit of information here.
I guess I'm not quite following you. You're saying,
Well,
should we?
I'm not asking that you're actually officially tracking everything, but I mean,
Right.
You're in the know as far as we can contact and
Correct.
ask you questions.
Yes. For those who don't know here, I also work 50% for Wisconsin DNR and the Urban Forestry Division. So as part of that aspect, we do keep track of a lot of what's going on around the state with municipalities and their efforts with EAB. So.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the to-do list that you provided towards the end of your presentation, the first step you included was a survey.
Yes.
What action have any county departments taken towards engaging in the survey?
Facilities Department has applied for a Wisconsin DNR Urban Forestry Grant and received it. And so they are in the process right now of putting that in action. And so this summer, they will be doing a tree inventory. And once the inventory is done, I will be helping them write an EAB plan.
And that tree inventory will encompass what percentage of county property?
All I know is it will encompass the properties that they manage. Beyond that, I do not know.
So that would not include parks and recreation
I
property?
can't confirm or deny that, so I don't know at this time.
Okay, so maybe the first step then would be to make sure that the departments that need the necessary funding to conduct an applicable survey would do that?
Correct.
Okay, and I want to piggyback on Mr. Eisen and Mr. Fari's comments as well. I guess simply stated, you're part of UW Extension, Education, Agriculture.
Right.
And of course, entertaining Mr. Eisen's notion about the partnerships and that's something that I talked about during a committee meeting one day as well. But I really think that would be a benefit as well, to engage in a more massive type PR campaign,
Right.
to engage in the citizens of the county. That would help, the citizens of each municipality as well in educating.
Right.
And that's really what UW Education Extension is about. So
Correct.
I think that starting there might be more beneficial at this stage of the game than inoculating trees. So I think that we should, as a board, come up with a plan, a strategy, if you will, and move forward. I don't know what committee would engage in that, but we need to have something drawn up sooner than later. And I'm glad that you're here tonight to help motivate somebody to come up with, that funding, the resolution that might help fund that survey to at least get started.
Correct. And I agree with you. Education needs to be done. We've been doing it, but the word's just not getting out there. I talked to the Wisconsin Towns Association a couple months ago, and a lot of them were not aware that had been found in the county. And so even though we do the efforts, some people they don't hear it. So it has to be something that's done repeatedly for people to really know. And so I agree, more education does need to be done. And then to actually plan for it, you do need to have an inventory. You do need to know what you have. So,
Sure. And wasn't the first find August of last year?
Yes.
Okay. So really, we've had a considerable amount of time already that we've known the presence in that. I don't know that I've received a newsletter or an article in a newsletter from the town of Menasha or anybody that's really, identified
Right.
emerald ash borer has been found in the county. I'm wondering also if we might engage the Wisconsin Counties Association I sure hear enough advertisements on the radio about all the different functions of Wisconsin counties on the radio, so maybe that would help engage them through, a public radio campaign through Wisconsin Counties Association as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was at the park convention this past November, and this was up for discussion. And I had two questions. One is it mandatory that if you know you have it to let other parties know? And the answer to that was no.
Correct.
And I think that's foolish. Well, it is. I mean, you just showed it on the map.
Yeah.
A little corner, little dot in a corner, in a short period of time, it's grown, all right?
Right.
And I would think it should be mandatory. I don't know if it should come from the counties, the state, or you. I don't know. But that should be mandatory to let other people know. Not only our county, but your neighboring counties.
There is, anytime it is found and it is officially confirmed by the state does press releases that go statewide that notifies everyone that it's been found. But if a property owner has it and they don't notify anyone, there's nothing to say that they have to. So,
Well, I'm
but there
going by
is-
municipalities. I'm not going by individuals.
Okay,
When-
but there is, the Department of Ag, Trade, Consumer Protection is the one that regulates the notification process. We are bound by their notification process and how they do it.
And the other thing was, I'd asked, how can you defend against it? And now you're saying there's chemicals.
Yes.
But November, they said there was really nothing that would really,
You can use chemicals, but chemicals are a lifetime commitment. Once you start treating, you can't stop. So some chemical treatments are yearly applications, some are effective for 2 to 3 years. And so once you start treatment, it's a lifetime commitment.
yeah, but if you started treatment before it got there, could it go around it then? Or would it cease right there?
If you start treatments, it will not attack that tree. However, what people think is that once the initial wave moves through and keeps going, that you can stop treatments. That is not the case, because you're always going to have, ash are very prone to resprouting. So those trees that have been cut down, once they resprout and reach a 1-inch diameter, emerald ash borer will attack them. Also, you're going to have homeowners who treat and then for one reason or another stop treatment. And so there's always going to be some type of residual population in a community. So you can't stop treatment once the initial wave has moved on. They're thinking that you might be able to spread the treatment. So a 2 to 3 year treatment may go to 3 to 5 years, but research has not proven that yet. So.
Okay. Actually, I wish you would have been there because you gave myself more information in a short period of time than they gave me for the 45-minute one. Thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor Warnke.
I was wondering about what's happening with, we have an extensive research lab at Madison on entomology. Why aren't they not going into full force and trying to tackle this thing and kill these bugs? Or have they?
Madison has done considerable amount of research, but Michigan is the lead researcher right now. Deb McCullough is one of the lead researchers. And the chemicals will protect the trees and kill the insects within the trees, but there's no way to eradicate the pest because it's so hard to determine when it's in a tree that they can't get ahead of it. There is also research looking at predatory wasps and introducing those, but all those are going to do at this point is slow the populations down. But the U.S. government and different universities across the nation are doing considerable amounts of research, and so far there's just nothing that can stop it.
How many of these bugs does it take to kill a tree?
One.
Just one. That's amazing.
Because once you have one insect in that tree, it can lay several hundred eggs. And so once it lays those eggs and they hatch, they keep multiplying. So it only takes one insect to get into a tree to eventually kill it. It won't kill it the first year or the second year, but it will kill it. If you have one insect in a tree and start treatments, then you can probably save your tree.
Thank you.
Supervisor Widener.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I have addressed this group several times in the past, saying that we need to address this issue. And I think that agreeing with Supervisor Haig, please note that I think we need to take action now, and I don't think we want to get in any turf battles as to who does that. But if we would show up with 3 or 4 resolutions to spend some money to get started on some of the inoculation, and I agree with Ms. Miller, we're not sure which trees to do, but at least we can take some trees and get started on that. And so I would hope to see us, this board, to not just ignore this. This was interesting, it's coming, that this board should say, to start to take action. And so let's get ahead of this battle and not worry too much about what we do with the wood. Let's try to save the wood and have it keep having leaves every year, and I think that's where we need to go. One other question for Ms. Miller, if I may, though. You said that some of the municipalities are starting to have plans to do this. Are most of them just looking at how to get rid of the wood and how to cut down stuff, or are some of them getting into inoculation?
Some are doing treatments, or they're in the plans to potentially look at treatments. I know the city of Menasha, their plan at one time had stated that they would consider treatments for Jefferson Park because of the number of ash trees in that park. City of Oshkosh has received some money to do treatments, and I'm not aware of what some of the other municipalities may be doing.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Hardy.
Thank you. How much does it cost to treat a tree? Right.
Oh, sorry.
How much does it cost to treat a tree?
It all depends on the type of treatment. There are 2 types of treatments. There's a soil drench and there's tree injections. Most municipalities opt to do the tree injection because it is the procedure that is good for 2 to 3 years. The estimates that we've gotten are $10 per diameter inch. And then some of them, it depends on if it's being done in-house or contracted. If you're contracting it, then you have to tack on the cost of their services on top of that.
Thank you.
Supervisor Ellis.
Thank you. Mike Elder was at the Parkview Health Center about 2 to 3 months ago, and I think he explained that he's got the count at Parkview Health Center. I think somewhere around the county in some of our grounds and that. He's talked about it. He's also talked about possibly taking some trees down already. And so he's been starting on this within the last few months. So I think we're already in the county, head of grounds and facility is thinking about some of the areas where possibly he can save some of the trees or take some of the trees down that he thinks that are going to be infested in the near future. So.
Supervisor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to, second Mr. Widener's suggestion that we get a bunch of proposals or a series of proposals for dealing with it. But I would like to add that some of the proposals should be for plans to start replacing ash trees with trees of other species and get at it right now. I'm hoping that somehow somebody can get going so that even this spring some planting of other species can be done. Call me the old pessimist if you will, but I think the ash borer is going to win, and I think that the strategy should be getting at planting other species and doing it right now.
Thank you. It was very informative.
Thank you.
At this, we'll give her a minute to get unhooked here. Jerry Bougie from the the Planning and Zoning Department and JS Department will give us an update on his department. I'll start it with your hand.
Yeah, I'll get going if Dean gets it going here. There's a backup plan here. I have it on your desk, so you're able to follow along here. And good evening, everyone. Just a little, I want to give you a little overview of the Planning and Zoning Department and some of the things we're working on and some of our programs. On the first page, you'll see the general outline of what I'd like to talk about tonight. Just kind of our, general responsibilities, some of the codes and plans and programs we have, various transactions we have in the office and the revenue that's related to it, and talk about some of the projects we have going on, recent ones and ones to come. The next page you'll see on the bottom graphic our table of organization. We have 13 full-time employees, 1 part-time. We have 4 divisions. We have a planning division, zoning, GIS and land records, and our property listing functions. In the additional graphics you'll see on the next pages, just the general responsibilities for the various divisions. We have our planning division. We primarily work on plans and ordinances. We work a lot with federal and state and local governments on projects, on development issues, and we're also, the planning division, we also do a lot of work in the economic development area. We're sort of the contact for the county for economic development. Our zoning division, primary responsibilities there are to administer ordinances, and there's a variety of different ordinances the office is responsible for. They issue permits, and they conduct a variety of inspections and on-sites. And they obviously they assist the general public in on development issues. Our GIS division in general, we have a land records plan that sort of guides our annual expenditures for the GIS division, and that's a state certified plan. And the GIS division, we work a lot with other county staff, departments. There we are. Thanks, Dean. And we work a lot with the various local governments and the general public, and we also provide a service for the 911 center and part of the Foxcom initiative. Property lister division, that division basically deals a lot with the assessment rolls, gets the tax bills prepared, works with municipal assessors, the local clerks and treasurers, and they also work with other county departments, and they work a lot with the development community, title companies and attorneys and surveyors and so forth. So those are just in general the 4 divisions that are part of the planning and zoning department. Now to kind of get into the heart of this, our planning and zoning program, this is the heart of what we do. And you can see that we are heavily involved in a lot of different programs and ordinances that are state mandated. It's the heart of what we do are items that are related to state mandates. One of the biggest ones is comprehensive planning. Came around and it was part of the 1999 governor's budget back in the day. There's probably no other program, I guess, throughout the state that affected really all levels of government, and than the comprehensive planning program. It required all towns, cities, villages, counties and the state and regional planning commissions to essentially do land use planning. So that forced folks to talk, and I think that program, as it evolved over the years, I think it became a sort of a useful program from the standpoint it got a lot of local governments talking, and I think that really gave us momentum to work on additional projects, at least in this county, that we were able to accomplish because of the comprehensive planning program. I mean, it's something that some folks are uncomfortable getting together and meeting on some of these things, but when you have different views and you come from different backgrounds and you got different agendas, I think this comprehensive planning program in the end, I think helped a lot with communication throughout the county, and not only this county, but I think it helped a lot in other areas in the state. So, I think that gave us momentum to get into the farmland preservation planning program. That's, another state mandate. The shoreland, wetland program. That's a program also that's now been put on hold really until 2016 for us. It's a the thing's been pushed off from year to year as the state kind of wrestles with what to do with that and the politics of it. So at this time we have updated our ordinances to reflect NR 115 requirements, but the new requirements for some of the impervious surface issues that we haven't gotten into that. We have not updated our ordinances to reflect that yet because we're not required to, not yet, not until 2016. So that program gets pushed off from year to year. And then we get into our floodplain, our sanitary stuff. This is all state mandated, and you can see that it affects as far as our areas throughout the county. All of these state mandates really are county-wide mandates that the county is required to administer. There are some exceptions that you'll notice in there. And that's allowed by state statute, in a couple of those programs, the stormwater program and the non-metallic mining program, where local governments can take the initiative to develop their own ordinances in place of a county ordinance. And in a couple of cases, you'll notice that. Just some of the things that are required more by county code. We have a subdivision ordinance that are outside. That's outside of the shoreland areas. That's by county code. We have our general zoning ordinance. Again, that's a county code requirement. We got airport. We got our land records code, which kind of describes how we handle land records in the county. We do administer addresses and road. We kind of watch the road names in the county, and that's for a 911 purpose. We also have a community rating system, which assists property owners that are in the floodplain areas to get lower insurance rates. So it's a program that we get audited on a regular basis, and soon when we pass that audit and everything looks good, property owners in the county do get a reduced rate for floodplain insurance. We also have a Wisconsin Fund program, and that's really to assist property owners with failing septic systems. Just a little map here that shows a comprehensive plan. This is a compilation, as you can see, of all the various local plans throughout the county. This was adopted in 2006 by the county board. To date, I think we've had maybe 5 amendments to this thing since 2006, so it's served us well. I think the local communities, the local towns did a wonderful job, in their own jurisdictions to develop their local maps. Basically went in and combined them for the whole county. And I think the towns did a great job on, in developing their maps, and it was a difficult process, as I mentioned before, but it all came together, and I think it's working fairly well. Here's our zoning map. You'll see all that area kind of in green, and there's some other colors there. All that area you see in green and the colors, that's under county jurisdiction. The kind of that grayed out, sort of light yellow is, that's the cities. But all those white areas are essentially are under town zoning jurisdiction. So you can see that we have 4 towns that are under county general zoning. That's Nakaimai, Amro, Algoma, and the town of Neenah. All the rest of the towns in the county are under their own zoning ordinance. Other than all of those areas that you see along the shoreline, the shorelines, which is under shoreland county shoreline jurisdiction. And you'll see a graphic here, countywide. It's almost 50-50, where the county's got about half the area under county zoning jurisdiction, and then the other half is under town zoning jurisdiction.
Is he the one that came from Tom David?
This is our farmland preservation plan. This was a fun process, say the least. Another state mandate. It's part of the, I believe, the 2009 governor's budget. We're required that all counties develop farmland preservation plans. Pulled all the towns together and citizens, and we put this map together. In the end, there's about 15,000 acres that the county planned for farmland preservation. That's primarily in those darker greens that you see. It's about 15,000 acres. About 200 different landowners throughout the county are under the program at this point. It's due for recertification in 2017, so we'll have to start looking at this map again fairly soon. Just real quick, our land records program. It's a state program. It funds our land records program in the county. It's off the levy. It's not on the levy. It's generated from real estate document recordings in the Register of Deeds office. Every time someone comes in to record a document, it costs them $30 to do so. And you'll see sort of the breakdown on how that $30 is distributed. At the present time in 2014, $20 goes into the county general fund, which is primarily the Register of Deeds. Another $8 goes into the land records program that my department oversees. And then another $2 goes to the state. That is scheduled to change here in 2015, where the dollars are going to shift a little bit. The $20 will be reduced to $15 for the county general fund, and the state gets $5. It's primarily because the redaction fee in the Register of Deeds office will be eliminated. That program will end, and therefore the state will receive a greater share of these dollars. We generate about $295,000 from the $8 to maintain and upgrade land records in the county. Primarily our equipment, our software that we use in the GIS office, as well as some other offices in Register of Deeds, the treasurer, property lister, etc. So those dollars are put to good use. And we also need to make sure that they're consistent with the land records plan that's prepared and certified by the state. And the program is overseen by the Planning and Zoning Committee, and there's a County Land Records Council that advises the Planning and Zoning Committee. We have an economic development program, good positive stuff here. We financially assist businesses. with loans and grants. We have our per capita funding program. Over the years, since 1980, we've distributed over $2.5 million to local communities and organizations for economic development. Our revolving loan fund program has been in existence since about 1980 as well. It started with $1 million. It's grown to $2.6 million. The county has invested additional dollars in the program. Again, very positive stuff. It's given 31 loans out over the years, a total of over $10 million, generated a lot of jobs, a lot of income for families, and a lot of equalized value and tax base in the county. We also have a secondary fund, a community development block grant fund, that also distributes loans to local businesses in the county. Very successful stuff. Just a little bit on some of the transactions in the county, just so you get a feel. Just a little 3-year look back here. As you can see on the far right-hand column, we've been fairly consistent about how many different transactions go through the office. In 2013 we had 759, and we've been pretty consistent over the last 3 years. We are seeing activity pick up. I think we kind of went down in a well here for a couple of years earlier, but the activity is picking up. This is just sort of a graphic that shows the types of transactions. The greatest share of transactions are zoning permits. We also have erosion control permits and sanitary permits. But the greatest share are zoning permits. Just a little bit on violations. We do get folks that call or email us or send us letters, whatever. They do express some concern about some violation or potential violation that may be going on in their neighborhood or that they've seen. So they will submit a complaint to us, and so we go out and investigate those. And many times, it is the case that there is some sort of violation that we do need to follow up on. This just gives you a little feel in the last few years. It turns out to be about a half dozen every month on average. The revenue, we've been pretty consistent. As you'll see, we did go through a little well there in 2011, 2010, but now we're kind of climbing out of that. Even with 4 towns that have left county zoning back in April of last year, our revenue numbers are up and our activity is up, and we are seeing an upswing in all of this. So, a greatest share of what we do is in the shoreland areas. Again, that's our jurisdiction countywide is in the shoreland areas, and the activity there is that's the area that's really picking up. People are doing additions and things like that. So we are seeing that activity pick up. And this just kind of gives you a feel, kind of schematically, a visual on how the breakdown of the different types of transactions. Again, zoning permits represent about 22% of our revenue. Sanitary permits and sanitary permits, erosion control permits, and our septic maintenance program are all fairly equal as far as revenue on an annual basis. And then we do have public hearing items, certified survey maps that represent another smaller share. Some major projects that we've been working on the last couple of years, again, the comprehensive revision of the zoning ordinance, which is now Chapter 23 of the county code. It replaced our 1979 ordinance. 4 towns did leave county zoning. The ones that are left are Algoma, Neenah, Nakaimai, and Amarillo. The ones that left were Winchester, Clayton, Menasha, and I'm missing one. Gosh, thank you, Jim. So and again, the activity's picking up. A lot of our activities in the shoreland areas anyways. so we really haven't seen a very significant drop-off in transactions in the office. We also, again, prepared our shoreland wetland ordinance, updated that. Farmland preservation plan, as I mentioned, was adopted by this board in 2012 and then subsequently certified by the state. The ordinance for the farmland preservation plan, the ordinance part of it, is still awaiting state certification. We do anticipate that all being resolved this year. We did spend quite a bit of time converting and upgrading to a new property listing and tax assessment software, which is software used by the property lister's office and the county treasurer's office. They work on that collectively. So it was well needed. It was the old AS400 system that was fairly archaic. We were one of the last counties that are on that system. Finally, we did move on to a newer software, and it's working well. We did convert over to a new GIS platform called ArcGIS. That took us a couple of years, but good transition by our GIS office. We also just got our floodplain ordinance redone and recertified by the state, by the DNR, in compliance with the NR 116 rules and the National Flood Insurance Program. So we've been fairly busy the last few years here. Just some things coming up here in 2014, our county comprehensive plan. It's a 10-year update. It's a requirement by state statute that we update that every 10 years. And as I mentioned, we had that adopted by this board in 2006. 2016 is coming pretty quickly. It's hard to believe, but it is. So we are in the process of receiving some RFPs from consultants to help us with that process. We'll, again, we're going to be working pretty closely with the local units of government on that, and the general public, and hopefully it goes well. We're also internally working on a kind of an integrated electronic land development system. We're working with our IS department to try to put everything into more digital format. We're moving along fairly well with that. We do anticipate this thing being kind of worked on as time goes, but we're coming up with a lot of customized processes to help us make things more efficient in the office and to be able to share data both internally and externally within the county. We're also doing, we have over roughly 480,000 microfiche images that are in little drawers in our department that, well, finally we're getting around to converting those to digital images, and those will all be available electronically via the web, both internally and externally in the county. And I know the surveyors are very happy about finally getting this stuff electronically. So that's another major project we're working on. And again, that'll take some time to finish that as well. 2015, we look at next year, we're looking at doing some aerial photography. It updates our 2009 version. Also, we're going to need to, we got a couple of ordinances here, our stormwater and erosion control ordinance and our subdivision ordinances, both of which need some care and some update and reflect more modern times. Both these ordinances have kind of gotten a little out of date, and there's been some statutory changes over time that we need to reflect in these ordinances as well. So we need some updates on those ordinances. Our farmland preservation plan, again, that's coming along again. We're looking at having that, to work on, start that process probably in 2015, the latter part of next year. Hopefully completed by 2017 and needs recertification from the state. Who knows where that'll go, but And one other item, our land records plan. Again, that plan is something that gets certified by the state. It does need updating. It expires in 2015. Under the new state rules that have come along, instead of it being a 5-year plan, it'll be a 3-year plan that we'll have to update. So we'll be starting that, and that guides all of our land records expenditures, through our land records modernization program. And that's about it. Certainly questions.
Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jerry, I know about the economic development program we do have in this county, but does our program, is it very similar to what other counties in the state have, or do other counties have more tools or things they can do to increase economic development in their counties?
Well, it really varies from county to county, and it really varies. When you look at the larger counties, we're similar, in that you have a variety of different local communities, primarily cities and larger towns, that have the staff and the wherewithal to conduct all the economic development activities. So, and the county is sort of an umbrella from that perspective, and provides assistance, provides some funding. So we're similar to what a lot of these places do. Now, there are some larger counties. I know Fond du Lac County has an economic development organization that is established in the county. They are a little more proactive, and there's funding that goes along with that from businesses. The businesses are the primary funder of that. So, it does vary from county to county.
I know a year ago or so, a county to the north of us contacted me and wanted to know what our industrial development board does and the kind of money we put into it, because they didn't have anything like that, and they were looking to try to put some money away for the future things. And in Fond du Lac County, we were one of the first ones to create an industrial development board. Winnebago County was.
Right.
And most of the counties that have created it have looked to us for guidance on how we started it and how we did it. And Fond du Lac County did it because they had to try to keep a company there, is
right.
what their big thing was. But
Yeah,
people have asked us through the years how we go about doing it.
Yeah,
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bougie, Winnebago County is a member of the East Central Wisconsin Planning Commission organization. How does that planning organization for the region work together and integrate and operate with the county's planning operation? Could you elaborate, explain to us
Sure.
that relationship? Because we pay them a real fistful of membership dollars,
Sure.
and are we getting our money's worth?
Well, that very last statement, I'm not going to make a judgment on that. But if I can explain how, we do work with them. To start with, a lot of the things that the East Central Regional Planning, what they do is, well, it's regional. I mean, it's a multi-county. It overlaps governmental jurisdictions above and beyond what we are able to do here at the county. So, and when I say that, I mean, they work on a lot of the transportation type things, and the sewer service area stuff, which really doesn't follow political boundaries so well. And so they're really, a lot of those programs come down from the federal level, the state and federal level, and so they work on a lot of those regional projects that are above and beyond just the county boundaries. Now, with that said, I mean, they do offer assistance to us whenever we request it. They are involved on committees that that we get involved with, whether it's farmland preservation planning or comprehensive planning. They're involved. They provide expertise, things like that. They have proven to be a valuable resource for us over the years.
Tell them about the mining, how it's saved.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Dave. We have about 40 mining sites in the county, extraction sites. There was an effort made a number of years ago when this what's called NR 135 came along, our non-metallic mining law. It's a requirement by counties that we establish a program in which to manage those mining sites. So the effort was made to organize a multi-county effort to hire an individual or to have an individual manage these sites for each and every county in the area. East Central had a staff person that they had there that they provide the assistance for all the counties in the region for non-metallic mining to manage all these sites for us. So it saves us a lot of time and effort. That's just an example. A good example.
They provide expertise above and beyond what typically is required to operate the county operations.
They have.
They work like a consultant
at times. Yes.
Okay. Another question I would have, Mr. Bougie, is aside from the airport zoning, I don't see that the county, the planning department or zoning department has much to do with the corporate municipalities within the county. Is that kind of a separate operation? Is there no shoreland applications applied to city corporate boundaries?
Within incorporated cities, there was a state law bill that was passed recently. When I say recently, about a year ago. Was it a year ago? Maybe it was wasn't quite that long ago, but basically they eliminated the provision where cities and or any incorporated community no longer needs to follow the shoreland requirements. Before that bill, what would happen anytime a city would annex land that was formerly in the town, that city would still need to follow those shoreland requirements. Okay, this bill came along recently to eliminate that requirement of cities, so they no longer need to.
The only thing left is the airport zoning. Is that correct?
Well, as far as that affects as far as a county's ability to affect land use within a city, pretty much so, yes.
Thank you.
Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the opportunity this afternoon to attend a seminar up in Appleton, and I'll read it was using GIS and LIDAR to target conservation efforts, etc. It gets into TMDL issues and that kind of stuff. But it was pointed out that Winnebago County doesn't have LIDAR ability or computer software. Do we have any plans for kind of looking at that new technology system?
Yes, yes, we do. We actually just contracted with. It was part of the 2014 budget process, but we are contracting with a firm to basically fly the LIDAR for us. And what LIDAR is light detecting and ranging, it's called. And basically what happens is an airplane goes up, flies over the county, and it basically collects point, and stuff's going to be really interesting to you, but it collects point data throughout on a very minute basis throughout the county. What it essentially does is it allows for very efficient and very specific and very detailed mapping of of all the various topographies throughout the county. Engineering firms will find that to be very useful. I think our Land and Water Office is going to find that to be very useful as well, Tom. But there's a lot of uses for it that it also establishes a very strong detailed control when you're talking about trying to match up various types of information in the GIS technical world. When you're talking about aerial photography that we're going to be doing in 2015, well, that aerial photography is going to be tied to this LiDAR, it's called, and we'll have very, very accurate information in which to be able to then do mapping and then to do engineering and so forth. So there is a lot of value for it. I don't, I can go into more detail on that, but.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. It was very informative. Okay, as Tom Davies is the director of the Land Water Conservation Department, we're going to take a 2-minute break so you can go to the bathroom while he's hooking his stuff up.
The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org.
Okay, Tom Davies from the Land Water Department and Conservation Department will be giving us a report on his department.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this on? Okay. I'd like
Listen
to thank
quick
everybody
because he's
for
going to
having me
talk
tonight.
fast.
Yeah. I had a farmer friend that always said to me, Tommy, listen quick because I'm going to talk fast. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to cover some ground and show you some stuff and keep her rolling. So land conservation, I have a title of my thing is It's What We Do. This is my committee. I have a great committee, and I'm very appreciative for those people. And we just got a new committee member, John Egan, who is our FSA representative. And our committee is a little unique in that we have 7 members because statutorily the Farm Service Agency chairman is statutorily a member of the Land Conservation Committee or someone that he appoints from their committee. And then we have one citizen member that's appointed by our chairman, and that's Bruce Bone. This is our department. I'm the director, and these are our employees. We have a great staff. We also have one conservation volunteer. We've been using volunteers lately, the local technical college we work with and UW, and they come and do their work study by us and learn some valuable stuff. We did just have one young lady get hired as a conservation technician in Fond du Lac County. This is our mission statement. To provide competent professional services in the planning, design, and implementation of programs, projects that protect, restore, and sustain the natural resources of Winnebago County. And what are those resources? Here they are. We have about 156,000 acres of cropland. We have about 2,600 landowners that have 5 acres or more in our zoned ag, and we have roughly 700 livestock sites, and we've been on most of them. We have 84 acres of water, 84,000 acres of water, 44,000 acres of wetlands, and that number is down about 2,000 acres from the last time I did this, which was about 2007. So we're losing wetlands, and we see that when we have rain events. We've got 310 miles of shoreline. Technical assistance that we provide is one of the services. We do project planning, we do survey, we design, we do cost estimating, and in many cases we provide cost sharing up to 70%, and we'll also write specific grants for the projects that we install on the landscape. The other services, we usually have between 800 and 900 individual calls a year, or times when we assist people. We do track our individual assistance to people calling in for a range of things. We also have assistance that we track when we're working with the towns or other agencies, units of government. We have a couple different things as far as equipment. We have 4 tree planters that we rent out. We also have a tree sale where we sell trees through the DNR tree sale, and then we also sell tree supplies. We also have a no-till drill. This is a specialty no-till drill that will drill in prairie grasses and prairie seeds for establishing native plants back into the county. And this drill has seen quite a few acres. It's an older drill. We fight to keep it going. Right now we've got a real nice thing set up. We've been working with Fox Valley Technical College. They have a teacher that also used to work by us who is now teaches a prairie class, and right now it's sitting at Fox Valley Tech, and the kids are doing the maintenance on it. So we're digging that. These are some of the other products that we have. We sell plat books. We also do the plat book in-house in our department and use that as a revenue source. Our tree planting supplies, we do some GIS maps, and then also we sell certain publications. Ordinances that we oversee, we have the Livestock Waste Management Ordinance. If somebody is going to construct, reconstruct, or substantially alter any livestock facility or livestock storage, manure storage structure, they need to get a permit from us first, and it needs to meet certain technical standards and state laws. This is from about 2008 till now. We've issued about 123 permits. Another program that we have is the Agricultural Performance Standards. This has greatly impacted our department over the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years. And what that is bringing landowners into compliance with the state rules as far as how a farmer will crop his land, his soil erosion, and what is allowable to leave a farmstead and manure storage regulations. So we physically have to walk the land in order to put it into compliance, and then issue a certification of compliance. So far, for our ag performance standards, because we have a tracking system that we use, we actually have 9,700 acres of cropland and 55 farm facilities that have been certified compliant since we started. We have a water quality improvement program that was approved by this board many years ago. It's a wonderful thing that we have. It's actually a county-funded program, and if we don't have funds through state or federal money, we're able to use this county-funded program. It was originally used for when we had the watershed projects, and those landowners and farmers that were not in the state priority watershed projects, you people agreed to let us have some funds to do water quality improvement. since 2008, we've had 164 agreements, and we've put $290,000 worth of cost sharing on the landscape. We also have a land and water resource management plan that was done. It actually was done in 2010 and goes for the next from 2011 to 2020, and that is kind of our guiding document. We get funds from the state for having an approved land and water plan. We get state funding. We've used 87 different contracts for that state money and put a little over $500,000 on the landscape. And this is cost sharing. That is money that is paid to contractors to help those landowners either improve their waterways or their diversions or their barnyard to get pollutant load reduction. So these dollars are all being spent in the county and creating an economic impact. Farmland preservation is a tax credit program that we oversee in our department. We actually are the ones that make sure the landowners are meeting the actual requirements so that they can get their tax credit. And we've worked, of course, with zoning over the last couple of years to get that farmland preservation plan done. And as Chuck will attest to, that was quite an endeavor with 7 townships. To date so far then, since 2008, annually we usually have between 80 and 120 people that will take that tax credit, and they've gotten just about $500,000 worth of tax credits then, and those funds come back to our county. The wildlife damage program is something that we also oversee by state statute. Somebody a long time ago decided that farmland, or that the wildlife damage program was going to be taken care of through land conservation. So we deal with that. And as you look at some of the stuff, you know, people don't realize it, but we do have bears in our county, and we have deer, and we have all kinds of critters that will land in places they don't belong and eat valuable crops. And for that, there is a program that we work with the DNR and the USDA, and those landowners are compensated for their damage. And so far, we've had about the last 7-8 years, it's about $428,000 that's been paid out. We have about 8 to 14 claims a year. One interesting thing about this program is that it's 100% funded by the hunting licenses. So these landowners, in order to be compensated, if they take the program where they want to be compensated for their loss, they have to allow public hunting on their property, and they have to have record books that the hunters come and record when they hunted. And then in order for them to get their payment, if they have damage, they have to show that they made an attempt to harvest those deer or whatever the damage is, that they've used some type of abatement before they can get paid. And then our committee also works on setting the prices for the commodities that are paid at the time, and then also the cutoff date for harvest and things like that. Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program is the installation of buffers. In your picture there is a nice buffer along that creek that runs on the side. That's a program that we started. It's actually state and federal. We do the state portion, working with the landowners to try and get buffers installed along those creeks to reduce phosphorus loading. And so far we've got 472 acres in 15-year agreements, and actually 81 acres of buffers that are in perpetual easements that will stay there, and the easements are held by DADCAP. This is another thing that has come into play in the last 4 or 5 years. It's the MS4, which is the Municipal Separate Stormwater Sewer System, and because there's 4 S's in it, it's easier to say MS4. So this is administered by us. We do the work for the Highway Department. The area that we deal with for the Highway Department is basically where our county roads go through the urbanized areas, which is where there is 1,000 people per square mile or more. That's part of the regulation. We've written for stormwater grants. We've done modeling for our area. We've identified areas of concern. That's one thing that we have to do. Are we going to have to do retention? Are we going to be okay? Because you have to get removal. The rule says if water enters your road ditch, in our particular case, it's our road ditches on our county trunks. When that water comes in from one pipe, in the distance that it runs to the outfall, does it get at least 20% removal of the sediment in that grass waterway or in that grass ditch? Now, the rule was that you had to have 20% by 2008, which we did, and 40% by 2013. But because of the huge cost that they were afraid municipalities were going to have to endure in order to get down to 40% sediment removal, so far the state has backed off, and we're allowed to stay at 20 until they tell us different. Right now, our county's at 30, so we're positioned pretty well. Our department also then does annual training. We'll go over to highway because it also includes what they call illicit discharge. We go and check these stream reaches or these ditches when it's dry out, and we actually have to look to see if there's something ugly else coming in to that drainage. Is there a pipe from somewhere putting illicit discharge in? So as part of the permit requirements, we have to monitor, we have to train and do information and education, and then we have to, of course, report to DNR, and then we can never forget to pay for our fee, for our permit. This is a map of those red lines on there are the reaches of our county trunks that are part of our MS4. Those are the areas that we have to monitor and that we have to model to make sure that we're getting the reduction. And the other thing that's coming along is they're starting to talk about phosphorus along with sediment. You know, first we were worried about the dirt in the water. Now we're going to start worrying about the phosphorus in there. So that is an issue. Federal programs, we have two of them. Their Conservation Stewardship Program and the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, or EQIP. The EQIP program is one that we are quite involved with because it cost shares farmers from a federal side on projects like manure storage and barnyards and waterways, and in many cases we install them. We work with our federal partners in the office, and we do the technical work, survey, design, installation, and they pay. And so far in these last stretch of years, we've got about $1.5 million out of the feds for either right to the farmer. CSP is if a farmer is doing certain conservation practices, uses certain type of nozzles on a sprayer, or plants certain plants, pollinator plants, and all these different things. They can get paid. The EQIP is basically for pretty much hard practices and nutrient management planning. 2013, this is a quick overview of kind of our funding that we got from DADCAP and from other revenue sources. Our levy for 2013 was $471, and we got, $471,000. We got county levy was $337. We got $131,000 from our SWARM grant, from our land and water plan, from the state for staff to implement the ag performance standards, do farmland preservation, and in many cases they write new laws and they just put in there that we'll do it, and they just forget about the part about giving us money for it. And then we get some money for doing the wildlife damage from DNR. On the other side is practices. Those are cost share dollars. That's money that goes right to the landowners or to the contractors that install the practice. The education that we do, we have conservation field days, which is a group of fourth graders that we get a lot of times from Nina. This next year now, thanks to Tom over there working with us, we're going to be doing a really nice conservation field days working with the school district of the village of Winnebago. They were given some wonderful land outside of town, and they're going to make a natural area out of it, wouldn't you say, Tom? And we're going to be doing conservation field days through there with their school and getting the kids over there and working with them on conservation. This is Melanie Elite. She's showing them our groundwater model there. We do presentations all over. We set up static. This, I think, was actually at our conservation expo that we had a few years back at the expo center. We also work with, in Oshkosh here, there's the Winnebago Lakes Council, and they have tours, and these are some things that we actually do in the city. We will do shoreline buffers. If any of you have seen the buffers that are in, I think it's Memorial Park, where they did all the redo of the shoreline with native plants and everything. We were involved with that, and we actually funded part of it as a demo. This is just another shot of what those shorelines look like once you stop mowing them and put native plants in. And that deep-rooted plant really helps filter the water running off the lawns. If we cost share one of those, they sign an agreement not to use phosphorus fertilizer for 10 years. So there is a O&M, operation and maintenance, for everything that we install. And also we have meetings, events. We work with our towns very closely. Field demonstrations, you see that big guy leaning on the shovel there. That's because you see that big tile standing up there in the front? Right there. That's a tube that we put over a tile spout. That liquid out there, we took a semi-tanker and opened the valve up of manure to show the farmers what can be done if you have a rollover or if you have a spill. We did this at Overton's farm, and we let her go. And then we showed them the different things that you could do to stop it. And that little berm right there is old feed that they loaded up in a feed cart for side feeding cattle. And we drove right out in the field with it and made a berm. And it was amazing how long that held the manure. But I had the job of going out and putting the tube on. And so this is another demo that we did. Nick Schneider, who has now just accepted a position with Fox Valley Technical College as an instructor, was our wonderful ag agent. And we did a lot of different things with Nick. And this was a demo that we did on soil quality and infiltration. This is also a demo that we did years back. It's over in Winnebago, what's left of it. You know, we try and do different things with the big wave fetch, wind fetch, ice out. As you came over the bridge from the west going east, it was on your left-hand side. And we did a whole bunch of different things. Those bags with plants in them, plant plugs. We did what they call gabion baskets, a whole host of things. And Mother Nature in short order told us that we better keep using rock. And we do one-on-one stops on the farm, working with the landowners. We also have a website that we do pride ourselves on keeping current, and we do periodically at our staff meeting actually plug in the computer, bring it up on the screen, and we march right through it as a crew and clean it up and get it changed. And so here's the partners that we work with within the county. We work with parks, with extension, with highway, obviously. Highway will also do some of our projects for us. Many years ago, a grader was purchased between highway and land conservation. Joel knows this. And periodically, when they're not too busy, if we've got a simple waterway or some other project that they have time to help us with, the highway department will bid on the job, and in many cases will save the landowner some money. And that relationship is still there when they have time, and we understand they're busy. Register of Deeds, we work with them because all of our contracts that are hard practices or bonded are recorded. Our county clerk and treasurer, we're talking to them all the time, and they also sell our plat books, and so we love them for that. Finance Department, Corp Counsel, and then Public Health. We worked on a project which you'll see working with Public Health where there was a groundwater issue, so we're working with them still on that, and then IS and facilities, and then planning and zoning. So that's where, and our towns, our local government, we work real close with the towns and the villages. City of Oshkosh, we are starting to do projects with them also. Like I said, through their Parks Department, we worked on that one in the park there. So our local groups, the first one, Lake Poygan Sportsman's Club, just an unbelievable organization. They have generated an enormous amount of money and worked with us on projects and paid to get shoreline projects in. Butamore Sportsman Club, Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever. All these different entities, if we can get them involved or they've got some payola to help out, we're more willing to take it, you know. Fox Valley Users Group, Dean Kotarabek is in that, and Andy Maricini, who's our GIS guy. Foxwolf Watershed Alliance, I'm on that board, Northeast Wisconsin Stormwater Consortium, which we have for stormwater and also now for TMDLs. These are the state agencies, DNR, Department of Ag, Department of Transportation, and the feds are FSA, or Farm Service Agency, NRCS, which is our conservation counterpart, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, USDA Wildlife Services, they work with us on the wildlife damage, and Army Corps of Engineers. Anytime we're going to be messing around in navigable water, we have to make sure that we're done putting in rock jobs or whatever, it's still navigable. And these are the two big state organizations, Wisconsin Land and Water Conservation Association and Wisconsin Land Information Association. These are the kind of a quick amount of accomplishments, but we finished up 2 priority watershed projects, and in those priority watershed projects we had about 150 people, and just short of $500,000 was spent on cost sharing there. The other one was the Fond du Lac River Winnebago West, and we had 157 agreements or participants in there, and we had about a little over $500,000. Well abandonments is another thing that we've started, and Bob, where are you? Bob Warnke. Thanks to Bob, we actually go into the cities. When Bob was on our committee, he brought it forward that he thought, and we agreed, it didn't matter where the well was, everybody benefits from clean water underground, above ground, wherever, which we all agreed. So we do well abandonments. If it's in the city of Neenah, city of Oshkosh, out in the country, it doesn't matter. If there's a well that should be abandoned, we will cost share it and get it taken care of. It's a very low cost, high yielding practice. $300-400 in many cases, and you've got a hole in the ground that's a direct conduit to groundwater, plugged, permanently plugged. So we really like doing those. Nutrient management in 2008. These are plans, basically a farmer's plan as to where how he's going to handle his crops, if he has manure, where it's going to go, how much it's going to go on each field, and those type of things. 2008, we had 22,000 acres that were planned. 2013, we're over 46,000. So it's coming. With Nick and with our agronomy staff, we've been doing farmer training, so the farmers themselves learn how to do their own plans, turn in their own plans, which gets you a lot more buy-in. When people are involved, they have a tendency of doing it better. You know, there's a chance it's actually going to be implemented if the guy wrote the plan himself. Construction projects, we installed 251 projects. Approximately $800,000 worth of cost sharing from the state and the county, and then federal money besides. And here's a few of those, and I'm going to roll through them right along, but they're set up to go fast. So here we are, we're going to do a shoreline protection. We go out on the ice. We did 2 this year. I know you guys didn't like how cold it was, but when you're one of the guys that's hired to drive a loaded dump truck out onto some ice, and the lake doesn't even give for you this year, those guys really appreciate it, because in a lot of years when we got a couple feet of ice and you take the loaded dump truck out there, the ice will actually wave in front of the truck as he drives to where he needs to dump. And that can be a little scary. So here we're looking at some of the erosion that's on this point. This landowner has agreed to work with us, and there's one of those dump trucks. And so in this particular case, we're close to shore, so if he does go in, it's probably only a couple feet deep. But so this is actually, even though it looks like a pile of rock, it is an engineered structure. And we have fabric, filter fabric, or a fabric that goes down, a geothermal or fabric that goes down. The rock is placed on there and shaped. First, there's a survey done, and you actually have to survey and see how much mud or loon, you know what, is in there, so you know how high, because we want to be 2 feet above the high water mark when we're done with this structure. So the rock is all placed and shaped. We go back out and we do the final check on it. Make sure that it's where it needs to be. And when the water calms and summer comes, the wave action doesn't get in there, and you see these nice aquatic plants filling in behind it, and that's what it looks like. And if you look right there, you can see there's kind of, when we do some rock, periodically, if they're depending on the length, we have to do overlaps because we have to allow navigation, and we have to allow fish in and out and critters in and out. So it really does, and we have to get, obviously, a DNR permit for that. Now this one here, pay attention to, because I want to know if some of you people can tell me where this is located, because it's not far from here. So that's what our stream bank looked like, and most of the blame has to go on Pete, because this water, most of it comes from the airport. This project is right down here on Oregon Street. That's Eugene Miller's creek that comes right through Eugene Miller's property and goes right underneath Oregon Street. I think it's Oregon, yeah. And the watershed is impacted very heavily by Oshkosh Truck and actually by the airport. So he was just losing bank, and so we actually were able to do that project and cost share it, and that was put in 2012. It's holding up fantastic. This is one that's right over in the village of Winnebago. This is a chunk of ground that the town of Winnebago had to mow, and I wouldn't want to be the guy leaning on that side, so they came to us. We did a demonstration project out of it and did a permanent shoreline restoration using coconut logs, and basically spiked those in, put plant plugs into the logs and plant plugs up on the top after you put the black dirt in, kind of level it off a little bit. And that's what it looks like today, and nobody mows it. It's a natural shoreline there that takes the road runoff and filters it first before it goes in. Here's a grass waterway. This is out in the town of Poigan. We had one of our wonderful rain events about 2 or 3 years ago. That's what it looked like. So we got out there right away. Melanie Leet did this project. We use a mesh over the top of the mulch. The mulch goes down. First it's seeded, then mulch goes down, then a 12-foot mesh is rolled out and staked into the ground to hold that in place. And that's what she looks like today. Here's a wetland restoration. Get water ponding out in the field, and then it fills up, and then it runs off. A lot of times it'll gather some soil. This one is just south of Oshkosh here. And that's what she looks like today. Some of that money we talked about bringing farmers into compliance, our barnyard runoff projects. This is in the northern part of the county. You can see that where that, I'm going to back up. You can see where that manure was running down off the back there, coming off the lot. It was doing the same thing in the front. And so they worked on a structure here to take care of that. And that puts these landowners in compliance. And we treat that runoff then, and we take all the clean water, and the key is to keep the clean water clean. So you'll see that where that guy's jacket is hanging on that pipe, that's going to take the downspout water off the building now, and instead of it running over the cow yard like it used to, it's going to go in a pipe and go right to the road ditch, clean right off the roof. It's one of the cheapest things we do, bang for the buck, is roof gutters. Simple little roof gutters to an underground outlet takes all that roof water. Instead of flushing that manure off the barnyard, we keep it clean and send it to the road ditch. So here they're pouring the facility. You see how they stamped it for traction for the cattle. Now they're putting a wall up. And if you look, let's see, I'll go one more. Okay, there's the gravel spreader. And if you look at there, you see those lines in there? Those are actually slots in that concrete. The rainwater and stuff, or any that hits the pad, will come through and actually dribble through those slots. The solids will stay on the barnyard. It'll go through the gravel spreader, and then this is all seeded down as a vegetated filter strip before it gets to the road ditch. That's how we get our removal. And so those things function very well. This is on the backside that I pointed to in the beginning. That's what's there now. And that manure comes down and around. There's one of the underground outlets now installed. And then this is just another use for your survey rod. When some of the heifers decide they want to give you a little bunt in the rear end, you can always throw yourself up over the the fence if you have to. So sometimes it's hazardous duty pay because the cattle aren't always so receptive that we're in there. This is a manure storage structure, just to give you an idea of the size of some of these. This was done out at Cross Farms. The size of some of the equipment that's used and those power screeds. This is a sump that's in there. All of these have to meet standards and specs. We have to be out there and check the rebar schedule, and they have to meet all the standards. You'll see that little line of goo there. That's so that one chunk of the concrete meshes in or seals to the other, and that's what the finished product looks like. Here's a really cool one where we had a manure pit, and what do you do with the ones that are old and abandoned but somebody left? And there's this beautiful brown muffin sitting in a big hole in the ground that's got grass on it, and then somebody's horse walks on it and goes through it. So you do an abandonment. In this particular case, we needed fill. So in that same farmstead, we did a wetland restoration at the same time. Actually, I'm going to back up. Dave, do you ever feel like you're this guy here? And that cat, I think we all feel like that every once in a while, that we've been pushing crap around all the time. That's what it looks like when we're done, when the manure's out. Here's where the conveyance, where the pipes and everything were taken out because we totally abandoned the system so that no manure or anything can come for that barn again. Here's where we're out doing the wetland restoration where the fill came from, right out in the field. And that's what that wetland restoration looks like. And that's what it looks like where the manure pit used to be, and that land is all being farmed. So quite a good deal. And this is the one that we did with the Public Health Department. This is Oak Ridge Road. Over on Oak Ridge Road, there was an old quarry that was basically abandoned, and we had homes around it, and there were 13 homes that had E. coli in their well. And so we got some E. coli hits when they were testing for a new well, or when the house was sold or something, and we got a call from public health, and actually this project started almost in like 2008, and it took that long. We just finished it a year ago. But basically, we reclaimed this, and they put a road in. It was a $123,000 project. We hit a vein of water while we were in there, so they had to have pumps pumping it out. And then 5 feet of red clay were put in there, and 6-inch lifts and sheep footed, compacted. There's the sheep footer right there, compacting the clay. You can see in the front here, that's the sump system. Here's where we hit that vein of water, and it kept running the whole time till we got to the end, and then they filled it in. That's what it looks like at the end. Coming looking from both ways. They take the stone back out. The fabric was pulled out. That stone was recycled to another job. So they put that rock down, drove on it so they could get the trucks down there, and as they finished up, they took the rock back out and had that somewhere else. Put it down. This is what it looks like today. And there's some happy users right there. Economic impact. Here's where we're at right now. About a little over $3 million was provided to our landowners through cost sharing, crop damage, tax credits. Plus the engineering services. We provide engineering services for all these projects. If the landowners choose to work with us, they have to stay with our timeline. Sometimes the projects, they don't want to wait. Some of the larger dairies have things they want to do, but if they're willing to wait, and they don't usually wait too long, those are tens of thousands of dollars of engineering practice money that they're not paying because they work with us. And so that also is a benefit to our landowners. And this is what's coming up. Total maximum daily loads, or maybe you haven't, but you've heard of TMDLs. These are coming through for municipal wastewater treatment plants. They're coming for farmers on stream reaches, and they will greatly impact our department in the future. And there's another bill called SB 547 that could generate a lot of money for the county. It's a variance to some of these rules that will allow municipalities to write a check to the county to go and do conservation on the land to get their phosphorus savings. Increased regulation on agriculture. The MS4s and stormwater, phosphorus is going to be required, so we're going to have to model that or decide what we're going to do with highway. And then we are going to be doing, over the next year or two, an Upper Pool Lakes shoreline inventory where we will be tying in with the GPS right into our GIS system, the new system, and taking pictures of the shoreline and identifying those spots that need to be taken care of. How'd I do, Jer? Was it 20 minutes?
Supervisor Robel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, in the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned that we're losing wetlands. Well,
right.
What's the reason for it?
Mainly construction. I mean, when they want to build somewhere, usually they do construction, and if they have to fill it, they'll fill it. And we're just losing wetlands to construction on the ground. Paving.
Aren't they supposed to provide another area for a wetland?
They can, but sometimes it's not in our county.
Because I know when they did some work on 41.
Well, yeah, that's the mitigation that the DNR does. But there's a lot of private wetlands or buildings that are put up in areas that those wetlands are removed, and sometimes what they call to replace the wetland is like a ponded area that maybe doesn't take the water like the real wetland did, but we've lost substantial wetlands. And I think one of the things that we're going to have to do when we look at bringing the farmers into compliance, and especially with these TMDLs, I think one of the main things that we're going to be constructing on a farm is wetland restorations. We are probably going to be doing like stormwater retention ponds on agriculture, which is basically what a wetland does. Provides that sedimentation out and filtering. Cattails eat the phosphorus, because we're going to have to find a way to reduce those loads and get those landowners in compliance.
Right. Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the first part of your presentation, you said something about trees. Are those sold for Winnebago County residents, or what
Yep.
is the?
Yep, we have a tree, it's actually the DNR, it's a DNR tree program that's administered, the county, or the DNR doesn't sell directly to the people, they always run it through the county. So once a year, we'll be doing it
This
pretty
is
soon.
something other than the DNR's tree program.
No, it is the DNR tree program for the trees, but we have to collect, they send in a check to the DNR, and then we get the trees and sort them all out over at the fairgrounds in a building. Then the people come and pick up their trees, and we check them off, and then we also sell them their tree tubes, fertilizer tablets, any of those other things. We also, in conjunction with that, before it happens, we have a tree planting school that we do one night about a week or two before, and we show the people that are getting large numbers how to use the tree planters, and then also how to do hand planting. But yes, it is. We take care of the. Actually, we don't, and we don't have to anymore. The freight is included. We used to have to contract for the semi.
So where are the trees? I mean, I've been.
They are at the nursery, the Griffith Nursery in Wisconsin Rapids.
Okay.
And so the orders all go in. Our county has its order. We have to get a semi over there then to pick it up. Now, just starting last year, we didn't have to do that because DNR took on the responsibility of delivering the trees. They hired the semi, first time ever. And what they did is they included some freight right in their tree costs. The trees were actually quoted to our landowners, delivered to Oshkosh, to the fairgrounds. You come pick your order up there.
I just asked because I've been up to Hayward. You know, I've been to some of those
Okay.
tree things. So
Yeah.
I wondered. I never saw one in.
It's the
Winnebago
Griffith
County, so-
Nursery
Okay.
in Wisconsin Rapids.
In regards to all these buffers and all these other programs that you're talking about, is it working?
I would
just
say
asked that question
I
'cause
would
I've
say
been out on the
definitely it
lake and
is.
I see
The impact, I think, especially when we got rolling with the priority watershed projects, one of the main pushes was residue management or reduced tillage. And you know, we've seen substantial water improvement over the big lake over the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years. And it's not completely from everything we did because there's other things, but definitely there is improvement in our water resources due to some of the things that have been installed on the landscape by the landowners and by practices that farmers do now. It's just too expensive almost to moldboard plow. You see a lot more residue management, conservation tillage where they're chiseling and ripping instead of the old moldboard plow because diesel's $4 a gallon. And so those things just kind of come hand in hand. But yes, I would say for sure.
Supervisor Warnke.
Tom, you got to tell everybody about how we could all become farmers and feed the bees.
Yeah, one of the NRCS programs right now, and actually they have put a huge push on pollinator. We're losing bees at an alarming rate here, and you know, it may not seem like a big deal, but everything that we eat gets pollinated in one way or another, and so there is a huge federal push. And it just so happens that in the upper Midwest, including Wisconsin, is the lion's share of the beekeepers and the honey production. And so there's a huge push for landowners to take land out of production and put it into pollinator crops. And they are very handsomely rewarded for doing that through the federal government. You can take 6-7 acres out of production, plant what they call pollinator crops that are, I think, more native plants that have a lot of flowering going on, and you get compensated from the federal government. It's one of the CSP, or that one could be EQIP.
Thank you, Tom. It was very interesting.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to ask John Raby, our solid waste director, to come up. He's going to give us some information on our landfill.
John, do me a favor when you're done, because you're going to probably want to plug in, or you're good with your battery? Otherwise, if you want to plug in, it's right down there. Just take it to your office. I'll grab it from you. I brought it from the office. Should be good.
All right, good evening. I'm John Raby, the Solid Waste Director for Winnebago County. I'm here tonight with Jennifer Semrau, who is our recycling specialist, and Kurt Pernsteiner, who is the facility manager for our solid waste department. They've helped out with the presentation tonight, and I appreciate them being here tonight with me. David has asked me to give a little update on the solid waste department. I've got a little PowerPoint. You have handouts, I believe, that are being distributed now. I guess first of all, we'd start with the Solid Waste Management Board, which the department operates under. It was created in 1975 by the Winnebago County Board to provide solid waste management services to communities, businesses, industry in Winnebago County. It operates under Chapter 15 of the Winnebago County General Code. Operations are fully funded by user fees or tipping fees for our solid waste and recyclables, and it is not on the tax levy. We provide quality integrated solid waste management services for our users while remaining cost conscious and environmentally responsible. Now, some of you may know this, but others might not. Winnebago County Solid Waste is part of a three-county agreement with Outagamie and Brown. It was created back in 2002 to enhance the operational efficiencies of solid waste and recycling services provided by the three counties. The solid waste portion of the agreement was a 25-year term, was the initial term. It runs through 2027 or later, depending on the landfill airspace usage. And what that essentially did is we all had three small landfills. We pooled our landfill airspace and are running them one regional landfill at a time. The recycling agreement has gone through one extension. The current term is through 2024, and that was following the construction of a tri-county single-stream recycling center in Outagamie County back in 2008 and 2009. We recently developed a tri-county regional program strategic plan for waste resource management to define future goals and objectives of the three-county group and schedule and develop a schedule of action items. And this was recently presented at the Wisconsin Integrated Resource Management Conference that was held in Green Bay in February of this year. The crux of that strategic plan identified key goals and objectives for the three-county group. Landfill airspace planning was one of the top ones. Again, maintaining optimal landfill tonnage for the regional operations. Maximizing the use of our fine tri-county recycling center, maximizing recycling. Looking to share resources between the departments whenever possible. Improving communications, not only internal to each county, but across the county lines. Scheduling annual meetings for each of the governing boards or committees to get together and discuss operations. Regional agreement, the solid waste agreement initially has a 25-year term. There is a provision in that agreement after the 14th year to determine whether it's going to be a one-term agreement or we're going to go beyond the first term. So that's coming up soon in 2016. So we're going to be looking at reviewing that agreement and strategizing for a renewal plan. And some of the new technologies that are out there, organics management, also construction and demolition waste recycling, shingle recycling, which we'll touch on a little bit later. We're setting up a diversion technology committee internal of the three counties to study and address our response to those different technologies that are coming available. On the administrative financial side of things, our table of organization currently has 16 full-time employees. That's down from 28 employees at the peak in 2002, prior to the regional, tri-county regional agreement. For 2014, we have approximately $11 million operational budget. We have approximately $15 million set aside in DNR escrow accounts, and these are required by the DNR for closure and long-term care of these sites. We have an older Snell Road landfill that's been closed since 1991, and the newer Sunnyview landfill that recently finished filling in 2012. We also have the Solid Waste Board has set aside monies in a retained earnings reservation. It's approximately $21 million in that balance right now. We have set aside different fund amounts, fund goals for different emergency type funds, long-term care type funds beyond what the DNR requires us to provide for in these escrow accounts above. And that's reviewed and revised annually by the Solid Waste Management Board. Just an example are the efficiencies of our Tri-County group. Our 2014 standard solid waste tipping fee is $39 per ton. And looking at the statewide average based on DNR provided data, that's greater than $52 a ton. So we're doing a real good job at running our operations and keeping tipping fees low for our county and our users. Just touch on some of the services that we provide, some of the hot items of late. Again, from a solid waste standpoint, we were the regional landfill disposal site from 2005 until 2012. So that ended in 2012. And then we proceeded to construct a 35-acre final cover on the Sunnyview landfill co-disposal site in 2013. So that is now closed. We're not accepting any more waste at the facility here in Winnebago County. So we've switched our operations to, instead of running a regional landfill, we're running a transfer station. So we still handle customers, route trucks from our municipalities and the privates. Instead of running up on the hill to dispose of it in the landfill, they drive across the street to our transfer station facility, which essentially is a metal building with a concrete floor. The trucks unload there, and then our employees use front-end loaders to load semis, and then the waste is shipped up to Outagamie County currently for disposal. We have a subcontracted hauler, Crowd Camp Trucking, providing those transportation services. We have an agreement with them, and their term runs through 2016. We're continuing to look at options to reduce costs. We're evaluating different ideas for how we're going to continue to run the transfer station, and ways we can reduce costs from a transportation standpoint long term. Outagamie County, like I mentioned, their landfill is currently providing regional solid waste disposal. And depending on the tonnages, we're estimating about year 2020 is when that site will be full. And then we would move up the road to the Brown County South landfill, which is located just outside of Wrightstown, for the balance of the first term of the agreement. The one thing we do still dispose at our facility here in Winnebago County is we do have a paper mill sludge landfill that still has airspace. So we do have some customers that use the site daily. So we're continuing sludge disposal at the Sunnyview site. A couple new things that we started in 2013. We did start looking at diverting construction and demolition waste and clean wood, as well as asphalt shingles that aren't contaminated with too much debris. And we have 2 local firms in the Appleton area that we send that material to if we can segregate it and ship it to them, and then they recycle it to the best of their ability. On the recycling side of things, again, we continue to just operate a transfer station. When we signed the agreement back in 2002, we had a recycling plant here in Winnebago County that shut down as part of the regional agreement. Brown continued to manage containers, and Outagamie continued to manage paper. In 2009, with the construction of the single-stream tri-county facility at Outagamie County, Brown County's facility was essentially mothballed and turned into a transfer station as well. So again, we use front-end loaders, our equipment operator, to load semis and then transport the recyclables to Outagamie County. Again, using Crowd Camp Trucking, and that agreement runs through 2016. We're looking at ways to save costs on getting those recyclable materials from point A to point B. Again, Outagamie's facility provides all the sorting, processing services for our recyclables. In 2013, one of the things we did do is we were able to come to terms on a long-term agreement for out-of-county material, which allowed us to take the next step and create a full second shift for processing. So currently, Outagamie runs a 2 8-hour shift system, Monday through Friday, typically, allowing us to exceed 82,000 tons in 2013 of recyclables. In 2014, the one big project that's coming down the pike, and maybe you've heard about it a little bit, is we're going to be adding a second baler and line, as well as some other upgrades, and this will allow us to process additional recyclables, 3 through 7 plastics, and paper cartons, aseptic containers. So that kind of goes hand in hand with this this long-term agreement with the out-of-county material, and going to the second shift allowed us to expand the facility. Try to give you a little idea of tonnage information here. This is Winnebago County materials. Through our transfer station, which are hauled to Outagamie County currently, in 2013, we managed about 94,200 tons of solid waste. And just to put that in perspective, that equates to about 4,798 semi-loads going from our facility to Outagamie County. On the recycling standpoint, same sort of thing, 11,558 tons of recyclables going to Outagamie County equates to 1,015 loads. So between those two materials, we are running over 5,800 loads, semi-loads, up and down 41, getting materials from point A to point B. One thing we're continuing to look at options are direct hauls, trying to look to some of our northern communities, as well as working with some of the private haulers to have materials delivered directly to the Outagamie County landfill and avoid handling some of those waste materials in our transfer station. Same solid waste and recyclables. So for 2013, we diverted 37,803 tons direct to Outagamie County. On the recycling front, 1,273 tons were diverted direct to Outagamie County. Just a couple other items of note here. We continue to take in wood waste, clean wood waste, yard waste, and in 2013, before we really got into diverting some of that for recycling, we were grinding those materials and shipping them to Outagamie County for use in landfill operations, much like they were used when we were the regional landfill site. So in 2013, 2,976 tons of that was shipped up to Outagamie, equating to 142 semi-loads. As I had mentioned, we're still taking sludge in our sludge landfill. Okay. We're still taking paper mill sludge. In 2013, we were at 9,659 tons. We're working on trying to secure some longer-term contracts with paper mill companies in the area in hopes of getting that number up higher for 2014. And I had mentioned the other items. C&D is construction and demolition waste and clean wood. We sent 1,381 tons of that material to a company called Landfill Reduction and Recycling in Appleton, which processes C&D waste, handles clean wood. So we're trying to use their facility to augment our services. We also started a pilot program segregating asphalt shingles. We were using a company called Badger Materials Recovery in Appleton, and we sent 858 tons of asphalt shingles to that facility in 2013. The product of solid waste disposal creates landfill gas. The DNR requires us to collect and combust that landfill gas from both the Snell Road landfill and the Sunnyview landfill to maintain our air permit compliance. At Snell Road, we operate a flare system, a standalone flare system, so all the gas collected from Snell Road is burned in a flare. At the Sunnyview site, we operate 5 engine generators and a flare system for the excess gas. The power generated from those 5 engine generators are sold to Wisconsin Public Service. The Highway Department is also using a small quantity of landfill gas to supplement their heating system, so reducing their dependence on natural gas and reducing their utility costs. The Sheriff's Department and Law Enforcement Center, they're using waste heat off of 2 of the engine generators to supplement their heating, hot water, and cooling systems now. Again, reducing their overall utility costs at that facility. Current landfill gas flows is something, it's a little tough to predict in the future, but right now we are operating at about 2,300 CFM or cubic feet per minute of landfill gas. That's a lot of gas from our facility. With our 5 engine generators, we currently have the capacity to combust 1,800 cubic feet per minute. That's when all 5 are running at full load. So the excess landfill gas has to be collected and combusted, so it is burned in the flare that's adjacent to the facility. As we continue to move forward, our gas flows from the Sunnyview set are going to start to decline. We've actually seen decreases over the last 2 years, from 2012 to 2013, and I imagine the same is going to happen in 2014. And typically, based on modeling, you're looking at a 5 to 10% per year decrease in total flow from the site. The first 2 years appear to be closer to 10% drop-offs, and hopefully that'll kind of taper off a little bit more, but it's kind of hard to project. So what we're working on is right now we have more than enough gas to run our 5 engines, but in the very near future we're going to be fighting with the landfill to produce enough gas to fire those 5 engines. So we're developing a schedule for the planned retiring of the older engines, keeping those 2 engines that are located at the Law Enforcement Center operating as long as possible. Just to mention about the flare that's at Sunnyview, it has we had to construct it so it could flare all the gas from the site when we have problems with engines or problems with our compressor system. But with that, it allows only a minimum flow of about 300 CFM, 250 to 300. So once we get down closer to 2,000, it's going to become a balancing act of whether or not we can run all 5 engines and the flare. So it'll be a bit of a challenge as the gas flows drop off. But as Mark Harris had mentioned in a previous meeting, we do have the ability to inject or re-inject leachate to wet the waste mass to hopefully pick up gas flows. So our plan that we have in place is to work on a system to start up leachate recirculation to keep those landfill gas flows in the 2,000-2,100 range, where we can continue to run all 5 engines and still keep the excess with the flare running. So some of the other programs and services that we provide that I won't get into great detail today, but we've now entered the closed landfill monitoring, maintenance, and long-term care period for 2 sites now, which involves air permit compliance, landfill gas monitoring, groundwater monitoring, surface water monitoring, leachate monitoring, also leachate pumping system and maintenance, maintenance of the final cover and surface water drainage system structures. We also run a household hazardous material facility at Winnebago County. It's not a year-round facility. It's operated from March through October. And then we also work with holding annual clean sweep events with our regional partners. At the landfill, we offer recycling opportunities for some of the DNR banned items or other items, which are such as tires, batteries, appliances, computers, electronics, bulbs, used oil, filters, used antifreeze, scrap metal, and yard waste. We were integral in starting up a proactive pharmaceutical management program, but now the function has kind of shifted to individual police departments. So the city of Oshkosh, the city of Neenah, and the town of Menasha have permanent drug drop boxes located in their law enforcement centers. But we still support the sorts and the ultimate disposal of those pharmaceuticals. Jennifer helps out with that quite a bit. We also run a container rental and lease program. Another thing we're looking at is, as we've entered this long-term care mode of these closed landfills, is re-looking at our end-use plans for those sites. One thing of note, if you visit the sites now, a lot of green space and there's a lot of wildlife activity. So we're looking at specific plans for both the 20-year plus closed Snell Road site and the Sunnyview site. We also have a website, newsletters that we develop monthly, hold annual meetings with our municipal partners, and we've also entered the social media avenue with a Facebook site. And I guess at this point in time, that's basically the extent of my presentation, some of my contact information here. And at this point, I'd like to just open it up to any questions.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This might be a bit of a leading question here, but you have a tub grinder out there, correct?
We have a horizontal feed wood grinder, yes.
And the board was just informed where we got this emerald ash borer issue.
Right.
At some point, the county or municipalities are going to have to provide a facility to start collecting all this wood.
Right.
One option would be to grind it. Plant a little seed in your head there. Is there the opportunity for the county to provide that service for Winnebago County at that site, utilizing
Possibly. We do have some land available, and with us not running a regional site, we're not using the grinder as much as we used to. So there certainly are some possibilities that we could kind of team together and try to come up with a good plan for that EAB.
Well, I bring it up tonight. Perhaps the committee can address it and yourself at a later date, but we should start some planning on that. And if we have the area and the equipment, maybe that would be a good opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I can assure you, after you heard that presentation, he is seeing dollar signs already.
Yeah.
Supervisor Haig.
I just planted a seed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Has Solid Waste developed a protocol for disposal of CFU light bulbs?
CFU.
We basically have a program in place for accepting compact fluorescent bulbs as well as other bulbs. We charge a small fee for them, and then we have a contract with lamp recyclers that comes in and picks up and recycles those bulbs.
Thank you.
So,
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Raby, could you share with the county board the breadth of the operations for landfill gas? And what I mean by that is, could you share with the board the approximate amount of revenue that production from our 5 generators produces in terms of a year?
Certainly. We've been fortunate the last 3 years to have enough gas to run all 5 engines at full load. And we've been lucky enough and proactive enough with our maintenance program to keep those running as much as possible. So for the last 3 years, we've averaged about $3 million in revenues from WPS from those units. Now, that does come at a cost. Rough numbers, it's probably costing us $2 million to make the $3 million, but it still is better than just flaring all of the landfill gas. So, does that answer your question, Paul?
Yeah, that pretty much addresses the issue that Dr. Thompson had raised at the last county board meeting about is there a way to avoid or somehow utilize that residual extra gas that's flared. And the Solid Waste Board, which I serve on, has looked at alternatives, perhaps dreaming about piping gas over to the Coughlin Center, but these are projects, or even providing service to the Oshkosh Correctional Center, but these were projects that never matured. But I think that the solid waste department, its management and its employees, and I might make mention that of those 18 employees in the solid waste department, these employees are solid waste department and solid waste management board employees. They are not included in the numbers of the total of Winnebago County employees. They're hired through Winnebago County personnel procedures. They are guided by the same union contracts. But I'll let Mr. Rabi elaborate on that. But they are not included in that 960 large number of employees in the county.
It sounds like you really covered it, Paul. Good job.
Thank you. It was a very nice.
All right, thank you very much.
Resolution number 312-32014. Approve a capital project to remove and replace failed concrete at the airport terminal building and fixed base operators ramp areas at a cost of $600,000. Supervisor Warnke.
I ask for your approval of Resolution 312-32014.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? One nay. Carried. Supervisor Robel. We are adjourned.